In the summer of 1859, thousands gathered along the edge of Niagara Falls to watch a man step onto a rope. His name was Charles Blondin. The rope stretched 1,100 feet across the gorge. It hung 160 feet above the raging water. There was no net to catch him. He didn't wear a harness as a backup plan. He simply had the rope beneath his feet and the mist rising from the falls below. Blondin didn't just cross once. He crossed again and again and again and again. He went blindfolded. He wore stilts. He pushed a wheelbarrow. At one point, he even carried a man on his back. Each step looked impossibly calm and casual. But make no mistake, there was nothing casual about it. Too much lean to the left, he falls. Too rigid, he falls. Too reactive to the wind, he falls. The spectacle wasn't about mere bravery. It was a masterclass on balance. Blondin understood something simple. Survival on a tightrope is about constant, quiet adjustments. A subtle shift of weight here, a steady hand on the pole there, micro corrections that nobody would ever even notice. Financial life works much in the same way. Most people think that money is a two-lane road. Spend it or save it. But real stewardship is more like a tightrope stretched across competing priorities. Give too little and your heart drifts. Save too much and you forget to live. Spend without guardrails and you wobble. Ignore protection and one gust of wind can undo everything. The danger isn't caring about one category. The danger is leaning so hard in one direction that you forget the rope beneath you. Blondin didn't cross Niagara by sprinting. He crossed by balancing. And the same is true of your money, because faithfulness isn't found at the extremes. It's found in the steady, disciplined art of adjustment. Welcome to Plan to Prosper, where we exist to honor God by helping faithful servants steward their finances wisely and build wealth that endures for generations. Logan, welcome back from sunny Florida.
Thanks. Great trip. You guys were in the bitter cold up here, and I was sitting in a pool.
Well, we were joking. We had Jake on the pod last week who did an admirable job in your stead, but we were saying it's getting warmer up here. Last week was the first teen day here weather-wise. So for us, we were enjoying it just as much as you were probably.
Well, when I left on Sunday, it was real feel of minus 20. So.
Yeah, dude, that was nasty. But you're back. Welcome back. You had a good time in Florida?
Great time in Florida.
Where were you? What were you doing?
Orlando. Brought the kids to Disney for the first time, surprised them the night before.
Nice.
The response was a little underwhelming the night before, but I think it was because they just had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Because then they got there and they loved it.
Sweet. What was their favorite ride? I'm sure it was different for each kid, but...
Peter Pan, which took forever to get through. And then I think my oldest liked Pirates of the Caribbean most.
That's a good one.
But yeah, I think the two younger, not the 2-year-old, she didn't really give me a favorite ride, but yeah, I think they liked Peter Pan the most.
Nice. And then you were also at a conference?
Yeah, Kingdom Advisors.
Okay.
Great, yeah, it was a great conference. Always great to connect with people and just continue learning and collaborating on kind of our mission.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Thanks.
So today, we're going to be talking about balance in your financial plan. There's not anything that we haven't necessarily touched on here before, but we're going to do a little bit more of a specific look at the different things you can do with your money and why we think you should prioritize all of them and just balance them as well as you can in your life. And some seasons might call for a little bit more lean in one direction versus another, and it might shift in another season of your life. But we think in all seasons of life, there's going to be a good need for balance across these categories. And I mentioned in the cold opening that I think a lot of people default to thinking that there's two things you can do with your money. You can either spend it or you can save it. But we see in our financial plans that there's really 5 things you can do with your money. And we actually set up each of our financial plans with these 5 categories right from the get-go so that clients and prospects can see right away what we're trying to prioritize and make sure that we don't miss anything in a financial plan.
Yeah. And we do kind of intentionally list them in an order in which we think you should prioritize.
Yeah. And what are those 5 things?
Giving, saving, spending, protecting, and investing.
Yeah.
Specifically, the first 2 we intentionally prioritize.
Yeah, and I do think we'll get to this in a little bit. We could theoretically kind of condense these down to 4 if you combine saving and investing. There's going to be a lot of overlap. Although we're going to separate investing for purposes of what we do with our investments as its own thing. But
as I was going over this, I kind of thought I technically could subpoint some of protecting. You're kind of spending money to protect as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, almost spending to save in that sense too. So there's certainly some nuance and caveat to it, but this is what we like to just keep an eye on for all of our clients. How are you doing in these various categories? Because we think there should be a healthy balance across all 5. It keeps your plan rooted in stewardship, not just accumulation. Because theoretically, you could figure out how to live. And there's some movements like the FIRE movement comes to mind. Financial independence, retire early, or isn't
there a new one now?
It's called the FINE movement, financial independence, next endeavor. So it's not so much prioritizing retirement, but just what am I going to do next?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that there are some people that shoot for like 40 or whatever.
Well, right.
And just thinking like, wow, now what do I do for the next 50 years or whatever?
Yeah, and it requires you to live in a certain way now where you really strip your budget down to like the quite literal bare minimum of your expenses, and you spend so little so that you can save every single penny so that you can retire as early as possible.
Or you just make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a both and thing for them, but we don't really see it that way as like if you really are committed to that, I suppose that's fine. But we think a healthy balance across these 5 categories.
Fine. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I think it's probably a better way to look at it.
Agreed.
So we look at this as the great balancing act, just like Charles Blondin on the tightrope above Niagara Falls. Have you ever heard that story before?
No.
Yeah. I've heard pastors use the illustration a lot of him because he legitimately like asked for a volunteer to like come out and get on his back so he could walk across the tightrope. After he'd done it numerous times and proven how good he is at it, he then, I think he calls out to the crowd and he goes, "How many of you think that I could do this while carrying a person on my back?" And everybody in the crowd's like, yeah, you could do it. And then he's like, "All right, can I have a volunteer?" And everybody's like,
yeah, absolutely not.
No.
So somebody did?
Somebody finally did, I think, yeah.
Wow.
So I think...
that's making me sweaty thinking about it.
I know. But I think there's some, a good little faith principle there. Like how many people believe that God can do what he says he's going to do. And everybody's like, yeah. All right, step out under the water then.
I don't have faith in this guy that's walking a tightrope.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you're walking with God. But yeah, totally.
What if a big guy like me volunteered? What would he have done? Okay, let me try.
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, he might have had some, I don't know, weight limits to it. Because I don't think he was a big guy. Like tightrope walkers tend to be smaller, I think.
I think. I've never had great balance, so I would assume.
Have you ever been to Niagara Falls?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little creepy because falling into the water, apparently if you fall in, that like you don't typically resurface. Like you end up, the force from the water.
If you go down?
If you go down the waterfall, because some people do it and they never come back. Mm-hmm. The water just is so
it's
forceful,
like a washing machine or whatever.
You just kind of get stuck down there, which is kind of creepy to think about. But people have gone over and survived. They go over in barrels or whatever. But a lot of people go over and they don't make it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's risky.
There was also a guy that tight-roped like the World Trade Center at one point. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, that was...
I think it was like the 70s, 80s, something like that.
He was a French guy. There was a great documentary about it. And then the guy that played Robin in the Batman movies.
Chris O'Donnell?
No, the new one. He wasn't technically Robin.
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
In Dark Knight Rises, oh my goodness, what's his name?
Is that the first one?
No, the third one.
Oh, okay.
There's a guy. It's revealed at the end that his real name is Robin, and they kind of like hint at him being Robin.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
That actor, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that's his name. He played that guy in the Twin Towers. They like made a movie about it, and he played him. But I forget what his name is. It wasn't Charles Blondin. It was like Philip something. He was French.
Somebody who does not do well with heights, as my kids pointed out every time we went down a water slide or whatever this week, doesn't do well watching any of those kind of videos. No. Yeah, I am notoriously fearful of heights too. Like I was like 16 years old when I went on my first roller coaster because I was like terrified of it my entire childhood. But like there's something about I like provoking the fear a little bit for some reason. There was this movie that came out a couple years ago, and we're getting way off track here, but it's called Fall, where these like two girls. Yeah. The radio tower or whatever. Yeah. I watched that and was like dehydrated from sweating so much the entire time.
Dude, I loved it because I like provoking that fear a little bit. I would think that like the exposure therapy would help me get over the fear, but it doesn't.
No, not at all. It just makes it worse.
I just maintain it. All right, so let's get into this. Let's get into the 5 categories. Number 1 is giving. God loves a cheerful giver.
Yeah.
That's what he says in 2 Corinthians. So we should be giving people. And we've done episodes on generosity. And I think we're not going to get too deep into any of these categories, but I think we like to start with this because we want to be prioritizing this above anything else in our lives. A lot of people do it the other way, where they spend everything, save everything, and then they give a little bit at the end, whatever's left over. We think you should go the opposite way. Let's start with giving.
Yeah, and I actually did a little bit of research here. I think that there's a good challenge here for all of us. First of all, I took a look at just kind of one of the things that John Calvin said about that verse, about God loves a cheerful giver. He said, no sacrifice is pleasing to God if it is not voluntary. But then I think the challenge is, I was just taking a look at a bunch of different polls that were done, surveys. I think it was like Barna and Pew, and just kind of aggregated data. How much, they gave a range. How much do you think the average proclaimed Christian gives of their gross income per year?
It's probably not 10%. I would say
You're
5.
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, according to kind of an aggregate of these polls, they gave a range of 2.5% to 5% of income. What percent of U.S. adults do you think do give 10% of their income?
Ooh, I'll go with the Pareto principle here, and I'll say 20%.
That's way over.
Okay.
It's 5%.
Yeah.
And then they also broke it down by not denomination, but like groupings of denominations. So I have evangelicals, mainline, Catholics, and Mormons.
Okay.
Rank those.
I feel like the Mormons there's something about the way that they run their operation that makes me think that they cook in this category. So I'm going to put them at number 1. I would put Catholics at 2, Protestants at 3, and it was 8, like evangelicals at 3 and mainline Protestants at 4.
Yes. So Mormons, 10%, and apparently they're absolutely, it's a requirement to attend the church. Yeah. So the average Mormon does give 10%.
Okay.
And then evangelicals evangelicals, they gave a straight 3% too.
Okay.
Mainline, they said they gave a range of 2 to 4%. Catholics was a range of 1 to 2%.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I guess I could see that. I would think that there's a decent amount of just kind of nominal Catholic attenders. I mean, there's a lot of nominal Christians too, but yeah, those are not great stats.
Yeah. But I think I looked into it and just thought it was a good challenge to all of us to reorient our heart towards giving and don't look at it as an obligation, but that God does want us to voluntarily give and be cheerful about it. Yeah,
it's such an interesting dynamic that God wants you to want to do it. He doesn't want you to do it. He does want you to do it, but he doesn't want you to just do it. He wants you to want to do it. And so
be happy about it.
Yeah, there's almost like
joyous.
If there's such reluctance in you to do it, it's almost like he would rather you not do it. But not because he's just like, okay, it's okay that you don't give anything. I think the challenge would be, what is going on in your heart that's causing you to be so reluctant here? Like, you need to figure that out, because I want you to want to do this, and it will be good for you to do it. You will ultimately get greater blessing when you choose to be generous. I think he promises that it's more blessed to give than to receive, because we end up enjoying our money more ultimately when we're generous with it.
Yeah. It was good reminders this past week at Kingdom Advisors, and when we had Bob on the podcast, he kind of reiterated it. I loved just constantly reminding myself to start with, none of this is mine. My body isn't mine. My family isn't mine. It's all God's. Yeah. And so that should make it. It's not. I mean, it's still a challenge. It still can be a struggle, but it should coming with that mindset should make it easier to give.
Yeah, for sure. It can help break some of this greediness that might exist in your heart here and there. If you're just like being willing to hold your money with an open hand, it will help break a lot of bad habits and patterns in your own thinking when it comes to your money. So we can't encourage you to prioritize this enough. And I think if we're going to throw a percentage on it, because we're going to kind of do that a little bit throughout this episode, we're not going to give you hard and fast, like you need to do 10% here, 20% here, blah, blah, blah. We'll give you general ranges, but I think 10% is a great starting point for your giving. And we've talked about this before. That's where
you just give a hard and fast 10%.
You give 10%. I think you should do it. Think of it from your gross, not your net, and think about the Old Testament idea of tithing is a 10th part of your income. So make that your your goal and your starting place for your giving. Always give more if you can, but let's try to get to 10%. Let's get those numbers up from 2 to 5%.
Yeah, and I like thinking about it starting with gross, because when you pay taxes, you're starting at gross too.
Exactly.
So you're rendering unto God what is God's and rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's, using that same starting point.
Yep. Listen to episode 5 of our podcast. We did a whole episode on giving, and I don't want to toot our own horn, but it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
If you go back to 5, you'll learn how much better we got at this.
I don't know if that's true, though. The Treasure Principle by Randy Alcorn. I referenced that book a lot in that episode we did because I had read it right before we did that episode, so I could prep for that. And it was really helpful. Like, he just does a really good job of connecting your finances with eternity and not just living for the here and now. And being a generous person really helps you do that, helps you disconnect from just trying to live for today and live for tomorrow in the eternal sense.
Randy Alcorn was at the conference as well.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Did he talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to 2 sessions he did.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bet it was good.
It was really good. Yeah. One of his takes is that if you're a Christian, faith-based investing is a non-negotiable.
Let's go, Randy. Did you go up and talk to him afterwards and tell him to work with Stonecrop Wealth Advisors?
No. Apparently he has a faith-based financial advisor.
Great. I'm glad. Happy to hear that.
Yeah. Rooting for our rivals.
That's right. Okay. Anything else on giving?
No, I think we're good.
What's the next one?
Saving.
Yes. So we will touch on investing later. Right now, let's just talk about saving principles, because you might not be in a place where you're ready to invest a whole lot, and you might be in a season where you're just trying to build your emergency fund or just trying to set up the habit of saving. We think saving is a really important thing. We've talked about this many times on the podcast before, but look at the ant in Proverbs, how she prepares her food in the summertime, she prepares for wintertime. We did a whole episode on Joseph that was episode 14 of the podcast, and how he was preparing for the years of famine during the years of plenty. And he set aside 20%, 1/5 of everything that they were reaping in the seasons of plenty to prepare for the seasons of famine. So saving is not all that different in our modern context, where we're kind of looking ahead to a number of things. The first would be any type of emergency that would come up in the short term. You need a new roof. You go to the emergency room. Your car breaks. Emergencies happen. So you need to kind of be prepared for those. But we're also kind of looking a little bit more long term, that there is a day coming when you're really not going to be able to work like you can work today.
Yeah.
And that's what retirement is for. We don't want you to have to work with your hands in your back until you're 90 years old. We think you should be preparing for some level of maybe not just retiring and sitting on a beach for the rest of your life, but not being able to work as hard as you do today.
Right. Yeah. I wrote a couple of quotes down. I don't know why I thought I would be able to easily read these at 9:30 last night when I wrote the smallest handwriting possible. But I read a couple things that Matthew Henry, Puritan, wrote about these verses.
Okay.
That I thought was actually this first one is kind of challenging, kind of funny. He says, "Man is so degenerated that he may learn wisdom from the meanest insects and be shamed by them."
That's awesome. I love that.
And then he also said, "Provident we must be in our worldly affairs, not with an anxious care, but with a prudent foresight. Lay in for winter, for straits and wants that may happen, and for old age, much more in the affairs of our souls."
Was this from his commentary on like that Proverbs?
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think a lot of Christians kind of sometimes have a bit of a reluctance to embrace this kind of thinking, because it feels worldly to them to just accumulate. Like we're just trying to get rich. We're just trying to accumulate as much money as possible, without connecting it to kingdom purpose and actually how you can more greatly fund the work of the kingdom when you're doing a good job in these saving categories. Like, we think by the time you get to a point where you're retiring or you're just not working anymore in a vocation, but you're maybe transitioning to volunteer work at your church, or you're transitioning to something else that you're passionate about, still being able to fund the mission of the church and not just I didn't save enough, so I need all this to live off of for the rest of my life. Like, we think you should be at a point where you're able to maintain extreme generosity in your later years.
Yeah. It was awesome. I was talking to a client the other day who we were, as throughout the conversation, we were talking to them, and it was clear that they were given to make good income. They give at least 10%, I think it was closer to 15% of their income annually. And they made it clear that in retirement, they do not want that giving number to drop.
Right.
So that was one of their goals.
That's awesome.
That expense stays the same. So plan for that expense staying the same.
I love it.
Yeah.
So to do this, you need to have pretty healthy savings rates. And we've talked about savings rates before. We're going to give a range here because there's no hard and fast. It has to be X amount. But I think 15 to 25% is a good range for most people. If you're starting later in life, if you're a little farther along, probably err a little closer to the 25% because you just have less time ahead of you. But if you're younger, in your 20s, 15% is a great place to start. But it's also a great place to start at 25% too, because you probably don't have as many expenses as you might have in your 30s and 40s. So get into the habit now of a really aggressive savings and take advantage of the lower expense years so that by the time you get into those, you're having kids, life is more expensive in those 30, 40-year-old years. You can maybe toggle back a little bit on your savings rate if you need to, but we think prioritizing saving to a 15-25% range is probably a healthy rate to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Reiterate. Yeah, you said it well. Reiterating just that different seasons might lead to different highs or lows in that range.
Right. And you can include, like, if you're getting an employer match here, you can include that in your number, like that. It's not all just the amount that you're setting aside. Like, you can, if you're getting money from your employer that's going into a retirement account, include that in your savings rate number so you can kind of have an idea of overall how much is getting saved into the various accounts that you have, and wherever you're saving, that can be included in your savings rate number.
Yeah. Yep.
Go back and listen to that episode 14 on our lessons from Joseph, because that's where he's right in the middle of that. He's at 20% with his plan to prepare Egypt for the famine. He saves 20%, 1/5 of everything that they produce in the years of plenty to prepare for the famine.
Yeah. And then, real quick on the Proverbs 13 verse, that's more of the leaving an inheritance for your children and children's children. I also was reading part of Matthew Henry's commentary on that. He says, "It is part of his praise that he is thoughtful for posterity, that he does not lay all out upon himself, but is in care to do well for those that come after him, not by withholding more than is meant, but by a prudent and decent frugality." And then he also, this isn't a direct quote, but there's an encouragement there as well to train your kids to do the same.
Right.
So that's part of the for your children's children, part of it is training your kids to also leave an inheritance to their kids. It's not all on you to, let me take care of my grandkids too. But it is on you, not necessarily all on you to take care of your grandkids, to provide to take care of your grandkids, but it is on you to train up your kids well in making sure they're also taking care of their kids.
Right. Yeah, Jake and I actually talked about this last week. I think it was last week's episode. How a lot of, I think it was in the Millionaire Next Door, when they did their study, that a lot of people that come into money via an inheritance, a lot of these kids do spend it all fairly quickly. And so it speaks to exactly what you're saying, that it's not enough to just accumulate as much as possible and then leave a bunch to your kids if you haven't been teaching them sound financial principles. Because there's a good chance if that's what happens, they just squander it all away fairly quickly because they didn't work for it, they didn't earn it. But rather, if you're teaching them sound principles and you're helping them get off on the right foot in their own financial journey, maybe you give them an inheritance early, like Bob Dahl mentioned on when we had him on, that his kids already have kind of essentially received their inheritance. And I'm sure that really helped them as they're starting families, buying a house and things like that, just getting them off on the right foot so that they can then build their own wealth for their own kids and then repeat that pattern generation after generation, and not just, hey, don't worry about it, kids. You'll get plenty of money at some point. Just relax. Like, no, let's teach our kids to be diligent workers themselves and do the exact same thing that we're doing for them, and they do it for their own kids.
And I think it can certainly be a blessing for you if you do leave the inheritance prior to you being gone. because then you get to see them enjoy it and steward it well, hopefully, if you've trained them up well. But yeah, you get to see them kind of enjoy what you have amassed for them.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it. I saw somebody post this on LinkedIn recently, like what's better for a young family that's just getting started, like $100,000 right now or $700,000 when they're 60 years old and you pass away. A lot of people, like you look at the raw numbers, and the $700,000 later might ultimately lead to a greater portfolio by the time you yourself pass away. But I think a lot of people would see, well, that $100,000 right now would go a long, long way in helping set up that family for their own long-term success, whether probably buying a house and things like that, just getting started with a good amount of funding in that early part of their careers when they're, like we said earlier, things get tight when you're adding kids into the mix and things like that. So think about that. This is kind of how I'm trying to think about it. I'm way early in the process. My kids are so young, but I would love to get to a point where I could help them in their early adulthood years just get started in their financial journey, as opposed to just trying to save as much as possible to then pass on when I die. I would love to start thinking a little bit more about how to help them in their adult years.
Yeah, and I'll throw a little shameless plug in there. If that is on your heart, there are different techniques you can do to make it more efficient than others.
Yeah.
Which we love digging into with clients. So just realize that if it is on your heart to if you're 50 or whatever and your kids are 20 and just starting out and you have amassed a lot of wealth, before just writing a check or however you think is the best way to do it, it's even if it's not us, it's probably useful to talk to somebody in our industry just to make sure that you're strategizing before just impulsively doing something.
Yes. Great. Any other thoughts on saving?
I don't think so.
What's next?
Spending. The fun one.
Yes. Spending, turns out, it's not sinful.
Yeah.
You're allowed to spend your money. But you can't spend all of it.
Right. And don't spend it on stupid stuff.
Yeah. Irresponsible spending. We did a whole episode on Michael Scott in The Office and the dumb things that he did with your money, his money. Don't do those things.
Right.
But within reason, we think that's having a healthy spending number in when you're thinking about your allocation of your resources. I think it should be a good number so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. Yeah. I think God wants that for you as well.
That's biblical. There's a Bible verse about enjoying what He's provided you with.
Yep. You have to spend money on housing. You probably should not be homeless if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
You should probably pay for some food to feed your family and yourself to survive.
It's pretty obvious that I do that.
No. Probably need a car to get to and from your job to make more money.
Yeah.
You know what? You can enjoy a little bit of you can go golfing sometimes too. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. So, hospitality, another, that costs money to have your friends over for dinner or throw a party, but you should do that. Mm-hmm. Take your family on vacation.
Yeah. That was one of Randy Alcorn's things was money's money. Enjoy those really nice vacations with your family.
Totally. And I feel like I've heard that family vacations in particular are some of your kids' most stark memories that sure, they'll remember bits and pieces, of course, throughout your just normal day-to-day life, but some of the core moments that stand out are often vacation. So don't miss that.
When I do this Kingdom Advisors conference fairly often. It's an annual conference. I haven't gone every year, but when I went down in 2023, I brought the family as well. And my kids were 5 and 4, I think. And I don't even think they really remembered much of what they did down there. But when I was like, oh, we'll go down to Florida again, to the same place, they were so excited to just go to Florida again because they just remember Florida as oh, we had so much fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, we love trying to, our kids are so young, they're probably not going to remember with any kind of specificity anything that we're doing right now in this season. We've got a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old. But nevertheless, it's memorable for us as parents these years, and just seeing their faces light up when they see Mickey Mouse or whatever. Yeah. That's a big thing. And it's nice to be able to give that to your kids.
Yeah.
Nate Bargatze, he has this whole bit about when he took his 2-year-old daughter to Disney World, and everybody was criticizing him. It was like, why are you wasting all your money on this? She's not going to remember it. And he's like, what do you mean? Like that? I'm not just going to lock her in a cage and be like, hey, did you remember yesterday? No, I'm not spending any money on you until you can start remembering things. Like he wants to enjoy this life as well, and enjoy this season with a little kid.
And the 2-year-old was free. That's
right. Yeah, they're free under 3. So try to time that if you can.
Yeah. Even the Lightning Lane pass, they can get it without paying.
Nice. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we've talked about principles that with housing, like that should probably be like 25 to 30% of your gross income. So that takes up a decent amount of that number. But anywhere between probably 50 and 60% of your gross income could be allocated towards spending and just taking care of what you need to in the here and now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good.
Great. We do have an episode on major purchases to kind of help give you wisdom with buying a house, with buying cars, and with like student loans ideas. So that's episode 19 if you want to go back and listen to that. Like you'll need to get a car at some point. You should probably use some sound financial principles. Don't just buy a Tesla because you think it'd be cool. Try to find something that would really fit your financial life in that season.
And kind of just back to the sinful ways in which you can spend too much. It's you had a story about somebody who kind of ruined their family based on spending too much on silly things.
Yeah.
I'm also aware somewhat of an NBA player that we had a little bit of a relationship with at one point that so an NBA player made a lot of money, retired a little bit early because they had to. They were hurt, but spent way too much money on very silly games. And so, just essentially it's that silly spending that isn't really benefiting anyone and potentially driving wedges in relationships and families that you should definitely be careful of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just take a look at what you've spent money on the past month and do all these things align with what I'm valuing as like maybe, but maybe not. And just be willing to make some adjustments if need be. And maybe you need to spend more money. Maybe you've been so like tight with it that you have so little margin and flexibility that your family is just like stressed all the time because like there's just no level of enjoyment in life because dad won't let you guys go do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, we can't afford it. Well, maybe you need to make some adjustments here. Maybe this season of balancing is causing harm to your family in some way, and you should be willing to flex on that so that your family can be supported as well.
Yeah, I at one point I was talking to a client, and I'm 99% sure this was said in jest, but client in a great financial position, retired, relatively recently retired, and so that's always a kind of a new experience for clients where they're now spending money and not really making much money any more than like Social Security that they're taking and potentially required minimum distributions or whatever. And we asked them how cash flow was going, and they said, "Oh, it's fine. We're eating ramen every night for dinner."
Oh man,
I'm almost positive it was a joke.
Yeah,
but just make there's a way to be prudent, but also talk to your financial advisor, but it's more than likely you don't need to eat ramen every night.
Sure. And it goes back to that when we're talking about saving, making that a priority in these early years so that by the time you do get to retirement, you don't feel like that. You don't feel so strapped for cash that it's like, we can't do anything now.
Right.
We have to save. We have to be as frugal as humanly possible in these years. We don't want that. We want abundant generosity, and even, a good amount of spending as well.
But from experience of watching people do it, it is hard, even if you have saved a lot, to just get used to, oh, it's okay to spend even though I'm not making any money.
Yeah, well, there's this intrinsic, it makes sense, like, I'm done accumulating now.
Yeah.
So now, theoretically, all I'm doing is taking money away from my portfolio for the rest of my life. And that can be a scary thought without thinking about, well, a lot of this money is invested and has potential for more growth as the years go on. And that's the big goal that we're looking at when we do financial planning is how is your portfolio growth looking compared to how much you're withdrawing from it? If portfolio growth is staying steadily above the amount you're withdrawing from it, that's a pretty good plan.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to always stay that way. We often see by the time somebody gets to the end of their retirement plan, later years, that number actually changes a little bit, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's perfectly okay. But don't just think the day you retire, whatever that portfolio balance is, that's the number, and I'm only going to be drawing from that and taking that number down for the rest of my life. That's not really the case.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is protecting. So this one is a little bit of a unique one from a cash flow perspective. There's not as much principle here, like you should allocate so much to protecting, but we're talking about mostly insurance and how to properly make sure that every potential tragedy that could come your way is covered, and you're not leaving any loved ones in a bad situation because you weren't properly insured.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and we did an episode on that with Chris Slaner. I don't remember what episode. 16.
16.
You've got it right there.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just part of, also part of making sure that you're continually providing.
Yeah. Yeah, the two big ones would be just life insurance and disability insurance. Life, if you were to suddenly pass away and couldn't earn any money anymore, is enough money going to come in for your loved ones that they would still be supported. And then disability, if you suddenly got injured or you're unable to work for whatever reason, that there could still be some income coming in to support you and your family.
Yeah. There was another situation that I recently thought about, though, where we were working with a client who at one point owned a few different restaurants, and they knew somebody else who owned some restaurants as well. And the restaurants had bars, served alcohol. This guy's friend, at one point, one of the bartenders, I'm assuming, accidentally overserved, and the person got in a car and drove and did something where there was a tragedy with another family. But because this guy who owned the restaurant didn't properly protect his assets, the family in which the tragedy occurred basically sued him for everything. And so there are also ways to, both with insurance and with proper estate planning, protect the assets you've amassed for your family, so that somebody else's mistake doesn't come back to you and negatively affect your family.
Right. Well, that's a sad story. I'm sad for everybody in that situation. It's
a sad story, but it's kind of a case study on why, on some of the other ways that you can and should try to protect what you've provided for yourself and your family.
Yep. Yeah, like umbrella policies to sort of kind of cover a variety of potential things that could come your way are really good for people to start looking at as well. We've talked about estate planning. We did an episode with your dad on estate planning, looking out for your family in the event of your passing beyond life insurance is really helpful too. So
but even estate planning while you're still here.
Yeah.
Setting things up in trusts and things like that can be useful as well.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So it goes beyond just having a life insurance policy. Yep. Just make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's and making sure, have I covered every potential catastrophic risk that could come my way?
Yeah.
Now, it's probably going to be imperfect, and it's not. You might not have everything dialed in right now, but just continue to take steps to improve that in your own family's life. Protection will just prevent one tragedy from undoing decades of faithfulness. So,
right, or decades of faithfulness, or because we definitely find it more common that you need more protection earlier. So even not decades of faithfulness, but you're just starting a family. So so in kind of in all circumstances.
Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts on protecting?
I don't think so.
Okay. Last one. Your favorite.
Investing.
Yes. So what is investing?
It's taking the capital that God's blessed you with and deploying it in hopes that you can make more money with it.
Yeah. So we're looking for kind of longer term growth here. We're trying to, like I said earlier, we're not just retiring with a set portfolio number. We have a good amount of that invested so that it can continue to grow, Lord willing. The markets will go up and down year to year, but in general, we're kind of expecting more growth over time, and that's being a good steward of it, of your finances, so that it's not just stuck in cash and you're losing money to inflation, but you're able to stay ahead of that as well.
Yeah, it's doing all of that, but I think the perspective that a lot of people don't consider is that you are doing all of that, but you're also using the money that God's blessed you with and typically trying to support a cause using some type of investing vehicle. Mm-hmm. So you're either investing to retain equity in a company in which then you're part owner of the company, and I would argue you're then somewhat responsible for what the company participates in, or you're lending money. So now you own a debt instrument, and when you lend to the funds, do you believe in what you're actually lending the funds for?
Yeah. So that speaks to what are we investing in?
Right.
And as what we've talked about this before, but we are big believers in, as Christians, making sure that our investments are not going to things that are completely and utterly antithetical to our faith. And so we try to set up portfolios for our Christian clients that are going to much more closely align with their faith. And we think that should be part of your consideration here, not just getting the best return from throwing it in an S&P 500 index, but let's actually consider what this money is going towards and what it's funding.
Yeah, and hopefully using the capital that we have to invest to better the world.
Yeah. So check out episode 7. We did a whole episode on faith-based investing, and our recent episode 28 with Bob Dahl. His story is really inspiring in the faith-based investing idea, because he worked at BlackRock, and he was like the chief. Was it chief
equity strategist?
Yeah,
there, yeah.
At BlackRock, which is the largest equity manager or money manager in the world.
I lose track. It's at least top 3.
Yeah. And then was let go because of his faith. And now he's at a faith-based investing firm. So we think that that's a good thing for Christians to be mindful of. Where's my money going? Is it funding the enemy, or is it funding the kingdom?
Yeah. And there are it's encouraging because we continually see additional innovations in the industry in this way, in which you can get a lot. Again, it depends on the amount of capital you've been blessed with, but you can potentially get very detailed on how you want to do it.
Yeah. So for most people, you probably have a 401k or maybe a 403b or 457, some kind of retirement plan through your job. That money does not just sit in cash. That money is intended to be invested. And so when you're considering how your investing is looking, again, we can kind of tie it back into the saving number. We're looking at that 15 to 25% number to make sure we're getting across the board in our savings. Maybe you're just getting your employer match right now, so you're only putting 5% to your 401k, but you're also saving in cash because you're trying to build your emergency fund. Include all those numbers when you're trying to calculate what your savings rate looks like. I even sometimes personally, like this isn't necessarily true. Like it's not technically saving, but I consider it sometimes net worth building. I like to keep my eye on this number as well, as how much am I putting towards debt. So like if I have still student loans or a car payment, how much of that is going towards that? Because continuing to pay off debt is building your net worth. And when you pay that off, you suddenly will have extra cash flow to put towards savings. And you could just roll that into more investing by the time you pay off whatever that debt is. So I would calculate that number as well, just to keep an eye on it, and see how much is going towards both saving, investing, and debt payoff, because it's both building your net worth and will be cash flow in the future that you could set aside for more saving and investing.
Just rolling that debt payment. Dave Ramsey would be proud of you.
I know. And I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. You had mentioned one thing about the retirement plan. Typically, it's really hard to do intentional investing like faith-based investing in a retirement plan.
Yeah.
If you have control over a corporate retirement plan, realize it is possible though. So If you want to change the investments in your retirement plan so that you and employees can opt into faith-based investing in a retirement plan as well, just know that that's an option.
Yeah, 100%. So let's kind of now summarize and let's look at just some rough percentages across all these categories as kind of a summary of everything that we just talked about. So if we're looking at giving, again, I think let's go off of gross income, 10%, saving and investing, the 15 to 25% range, spending 45 to 60% range. We didn't talk about this really much at all, but there are taxes that will come out of your gross income as well. That's going to really vary depending on the tax bracket that you're in, but that could be anywhere from 20 to 35% potentially. And then protecting, again, that's going to be funded with some spending, but it's kind of a little bit of a separate thing because you're going to be paying premiums and things like that.
Right.
And then one thing that when I calculate this for myself, when I was trying to put this together, I was like, well, this is a little annoying because I'm going to end up going over 100%. If I'm going off of gross and I'm including employer matches, well, the employer contributions are not part of my gross salary, right? So when you add all these numbers up, you may actually end up going over 100% if you're including your employer contributions to any retirement plans or anything else that they might be contributing to. So keep that in mind.
Or if you like the 100%, just add the employer to your gross salary and do the calculation that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the more than 100% really bothers you.
Yeah. Because it is a little strange, but it is money that is being saved for you, and it's not technically part of your gross salary. But but technically kind of is. You're right.
You're making the money.
Yeah.
You're collecting the money.
It's just money that has to go into that particular account. You can't just spend it.
And you'll be taxed on it later.
Yeah. So we're realizing we're giving some fairly decent ranges here, but that's intentional. We're not giving personal advice to any one particular person. Everybody's going to look a little bit different, and we just want to give some rough estimates here, not hard and fast rules, because hard and fast rules they're meant to be broken.
And we like to get relatively hard and fast with the individual as we're giving individual advice.
Exactly. As a comparison, there's a pretty popular idea here, the 50-30-20 rule. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Where you assign 50% to your needs, 30% to your wants, and 20% to your savings. So it's not terrible, but there's nothing allocated towards giving. It has to be taken from net because there's
no tax.
Nothing here for taxes. So you could evaluate your net income off of those, but I would add some giving, and you're going to have to obviously take 10% from somewhere.
Or a mix.
Yeah. So that ends up being essentially 80% spending in this particular framework, this 50-30. If 50% needs and 30% wants, that's 80% that you're spending and 20% that you're saving. That seems on the higher side to me, but...
I was talking to a pastor at one point, and his rule, or I don't know if he came up with it or if he read it somewhere on like a Christian blog or something, but he said he tries to live by 50-20-20-10. Okay. Yeah. I like that. So I guess he just takes it all out of wants.
Wants, yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would encourage you to think from gross, not from net. But I think every once in a while, just doing a quick net calculation as well is fine to just see how you're comparing to some of those numbers.
Yep.
Real quick, want to just, with the rest of our time, just hit on where does balance show up in other areas of our life? Because we did this last week with Jake, where we were looking at patience and how God has built patience to be a normal part of how we build anything in our lives. That you need patience to build a good financial plan. You need patience to get in good shape. You need patience to do build a business, build your career. None of that stuff happens quickly or overnight. Same thing with balance, that we see. You can't lean too hard in any one direction in a lot of areas of your life. So the first one that came to mind is the notion of like a work-life balance that people talk about all the time. There's the workaholics that just work 70 hours a week and burn the candle at both ends and leave very little time for their family. That's not a super healthy way to live your life for a really, really long period of time. Again, there might be a season where you need to really push it, but we think there should be a healthy balance between work, family, enjoyment, recreation.
Right. Yeah. Things that Yeah, it is funny. I do find that when I go on a trip or spend some additional time with family, I end up coming back to work refreshed and like ready to work a lot harder again. So yeah, I think it's both. It is practical as well to just help refresh you.
I've also taken vacations that have gone on too long. Like I thought I'm going to need like a 2-week vacation is going to be sweet. And it's great. But by the end of the vacation, I'm like, I am ready to go back. Yeah. Like I can't take this anymore. Mm-hmm. Or like, I don't know if this is a kind of a silly example, but when I've been sick in the past and I like literally can't do anything and I just have to like kind of stay in bed. It sounds really nice at first. Like I'm just going to sit in bed all day, but I like
just going to throw the TV on.
After like 5 hours, I'm like, I hate this. I hate it. I have to go do something.
My body hurts from just sitting here.
Exactly. So balance is needed across the board. You can't do too much of that. It's just even too much enjoyment, as nice as that sounds, is not good. You need to be balanced with food. You know, people hitting those macros. You can't just eat all carbs. That'd be bad. You also maybe you shouldn't necessarily just eat all protein.
A lot of times it tastes good though.
It does taste good. I know. A healthy balance of protein, fats, and carbs. A well-balanced diet, as they say. What other areas does balance show up?
Exercise.
Yes.
Don't just work out the biceps. Work out everything.
That's right. Yeah, that classic
Not just
line.
the glamour muscles.
Don't skip leg day, because that's, people don't necessarily see that as the glamour muscles. That's what people see when you're in a tank top or you're at the beach or whatever. Hit the legs too, man. You need it.
Yeah. It is interesting though. I was actually not intentionally for this, but I was reading 1 Timothy this morning, and in 4:8 it says something like, and I won't pull it out, so I'm gonna poorly paraphrase, but something like physical exercise is good, but something like spiritual exercise is bad.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's physical exercise is of some value, but godliness is of value in every way.
Yeah. So I think the balance is definitely useful, but like also prioritize.
Yeah. And then on that note, spiritual balance as well. Like there's the means of grace that just the ordinary means of grace through prayer, worship, reading your Bible. It's possible to overdo one of those at the expense of another. Where if you only pray and you literally never open your Bible, it's better than not praying at all, obviously. Yeah. But like you should probably be feeding your soul with the Word of God and also praying out to God. You should also be worshiping God. You should also be going to church and communing with the saints and enjoying the sacraments of communion and there. So you kind of need a healthy balance of all those as well to have a well-rounded spiritual life.
Yeah, definitely.
It is possible to over-optimize one area and neglect others. Yeah, is the point.
Be ripped and jacked as anything, but not do anything else, not work, not have any spiritual life.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes it's overwhelming because like there's so little time and there's a lot to do. Yeah. So you have to figure it out. You're not going to be able to perfectly balance every little thing that you want to do perfectly every single day. Some days you might get a workout in, but you didn't get a chance to read the novel that you've been working on.
Right.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect every single day, but in general, try to set up yourself for success on a daily basis so that you're prioritizing your spiritual life, your health, your work, your family, and even your own enjoyment. That those can you can find some balance in all those things.
I was joking the other day that I'm reading the book that I think his name is Walter Isaacson, wrote about Elon Musk. And now I'm going to come in and be a hard manager.
I'm ready for it. Push me.
Oh boy.
So the ultimate idea here is just faithfulness across the board in every aspect of your life, being faithful in all these little things and balancing them well.
Yeah.
And being willing to make adjustments.
Don't fall off Niagara Falls.
That's right. Balance it well. Put a person on your back if you have to.
If you have to. I would prefer not to.
Yeah, me too.
Unless it's my kids.
True.
They're lighter.
Yeah.
I can handle them.
Yes. Any other closing thoughts as we wrap up here?
I don't think so.
All right. Well.
Another good guest next week.
Yeah, we're going to have a guest on next week. I'm excited to, we won't share it just yet, but we're excited to welcome a new guest on the podcast next week. And we're going to talk about building a career as a Christian. And I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Tune in again next week for that episode. And have a great week, and God bless.
God bless.
Investment advisory services offered through Stonecrop Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. This material is intended for informational purposes only.